Hey everybody, what is going on? It is your boy Izl33 welcoming you to the VOD review series where we're not even looking at a VOD. Today we're going over BLG G2. The last hope from Europe takes on the second seed from China. Now, this series kind of is important in gauging the West's strength, as if G2 lose this, they're losing basically Europe's chances are gone. And we still know that China and Korea are better than everything else, which is understandable. So, game one, we're coming in fresh mindset with obviously the hints of knowledge we've gained throughout the entire tourney. Now, I'm looking at G2's draft. They're banning the cannon away from bin, which I'm a bit surprised by, all things considered. I think a lot of teams have realistically banned out Cassante in the second rotation. Cannon's kind of fallen out of priority for a lot of these Eastern teams. They're not the ones picking it. And I think that's kind of a crutch that the West has as a whole during this entire tournament. It's maybe a misjudging of the pick. Because if we just look at Bin during this tourney, he's played one game of Cannon. Yeah, it's his lowest KDA bar his Jacks and Renekton. But like, he has one on it. But this tournament, it's got a 50% win rate. And it's not that high, you think. Because the Western teams keep taking it. If we look, whom Licorice Bin played it once and got absolutely monstered. Broken Blade plays it. Yeah, it's a lot of the West just crutching onto it. And it kind of tells you something that if these teams from the LCK and LPL are letting that pick go through, we realistically have an issue. Now, last ban from G2 is a bit surprising in Italy. I mean, Jun has been playing very well on that pick, but so Jike. In my opinion, G2 could have let that pick go through and first pick it. Then you think, well, you could in theory ban in that slot. Again, if you keep the cannon ban Cassante out. Here you could in theory ban Yagal's Ari and not allow him that pick. I think these bans from G2 are very, in their head, meta heavy picks. But in theory, blue side should be just throwing bans at the opponent. Because if you look at what BLG do, and this is something that I've seen a lot from teams on red side from the east, because the western regions assume, oh, red side have to ban every strong pick. But when teams don't do that and let power picks through, they somehow manage to scrape a lot of strengths and the counter picks. That's the strength of red side. So they just banned target bans. Broken Blade's Casio had a field day during this tournament. He's got 100% win rate on that pick. That tells you something about it. Now, I think the big issue is the Nautilus Flex gets banned out here. That's a G2 special. And then the Anti-Flex as well. That's something G2 have, is the flexibility of these two champions, considering they brought this pick to the tournament. And they also have an Anti-Flex. I'm intrigued by Cassante as a whole. Has Broken Blade played it? He has, and he won on it, and did very well. peculiar. I'm intrigued by how certain picks make it through, and we need to look at the actual game to see the pick order, to understand it a bit more. That's what we're going to do right now. I don't want to hear sound. So that's not pick order. Here. Okay. It's last pick Casante. That's weird that it makes it through draft that heavily, all things considered. As a G2, I don't know. I mean, I understand it. Looking at this now, and how G2 have picked, it makes sense. Because you keep, technically here, a flex of these two champions, and the rest of it is set in stone. BLG, lock in the Cassante, and you can still kind of flex it. Silas can go top, but it's not the strongest of matchups and places in terms of where you want to keep Silas. So yeah, it makes sense as a whole. Excuse me. But the rest of the draft, that triple ban there, the Vi I understand. I would have, in theory, left it open and forced BLG to ban it. But yeah, that ban set from BLG makes a huge amount of sense to me. First pick, Maokai. I get it. You want the control. I think that has risen to first pick priority in games it's allowed through. I'm pretty sure that usually gets first picked, so that's a good choice for G2. BLG. Lulu Aphelios. I probably wouldn't have locked into Lulu first. I would have locked the Aphelios. And I mean, you could then lock in Wukong because you know where the Maokai's going. So you kind of guarantee a counter pick in some regards on the support. So G2 just snap up a blitz. I mean, okay. I understand it because you got these two small boys here, or girls. It makes some sense how G2's drafted. Second ban phase, nah, yeah, that's standard for Bin. Makes a lot of sense. Tristan, yeah, I get it. Obviously, with the Maokai being AP, yeah, you remove the AD options for Caps or Broken Blade, because that can go up to Broken Blade. That's also can be played by Caps, and that's a Caps pick. All things considered, I like how BLG had banned it. Last rotation, I mean, we kind of explained how it works, but this is a double flex. This is a double flex. So, whichever lane they want to take him, they can take it. Now, I've not watched any of these games, and considering this is quite a quick game, that's ADC, isn't it? Yeah. Looks like 24 minutes, something happens. Because it feels like he probably gets a shutdown onto Hansama at 24 minutes. Yeah, I mean, there's a shutdown. And Elk pops off in a fight. Let's have a look at a fight at 24 minutes. Just so we get some understanding. That's close. Another minute on. So, I'm intrigued. So, Shun starting Drake. Makes sense. You want to get that objective. He's splitting from the team. I think this is G2 taking the Baron angle, because they realize that jungle is down on the Drake, but Jun pulls off immediately. Baron, it's a Baron angle, isn't it? Nature's Grasp kind of is bad. All things considered, G2 have no vision. So this looks like a desperate Baron. So Yike mispositions it, I guess, because he assumes that they're probably over the wall. But okay. So there's ward there, ward there. Gets cleared out. Okay. That ward sees them all come through. Huh? So why is he throwing that up there when he knows they're there? That's a weird Maokai ult. I think it's a misplay. Because Cassante just tanks it if needed. But like, so G2 get Baron. And oh, I understand now. I think I paused at probably the best frame possible for this, but like, yeah, that's the entire health bar deleted. Elk's in their face now with Infernum. Oh. Yeah, and the Wombo combo from the Wukong. G2 just clump up. That's all that happens. It's a huge misplay. Yeah. That's a huge misplay. I mean, G2 are down in gold. But they... I mean... So there's a lot of issues right now. Number one, Maokai ult bad. Number two, Windwall is there. I understand you want to stop Yagao from chainsing through, but like, you allow the Moonlight Vigil through. You're not blocking damage from the main damage dealer there. So, it's a huge misplay. And I don't think it would have mattered if Elk died. Like, G2 would still all be crumbling. It's just a bad positioning. And honestly, several mistakes from G2 that lost them that fight. They didn't even need to fight, to be honest, at that point. Because they had no vision. Other than the river wards that BLG walked over. So, yeah, that does seem like a massive outplay and misplay by G2. So, we move into game 2. And, this is the intriguing game to me. Because this is G2 turning back. And the Maokai, it looks like it does nothing this game, but it gets 12 assists. So he's clearly setting up things alongside Mickey, who also has 12 assists. So, I'm now really I didn't know they had Soul. I'm really concerned about this game now. Considering 36 minutes, it's drawn out. Drawn out games tend to mean throw. And I'm really interested by this. So, we'll go to the timeline. Well, I think this might be a game where bot gets inflated early on thingy side. Just having a look at CS. Yeah. G2 seem to be getting bullied. I presume that's support. That's jungle. What? Okay. This game seems really weird. So, makes sense, first blood down there. Plato. Yeah. Plates galore in the bot lane. That's 3. Yeah, that's Herald. Wait, no, it's not Herald. G2 secured Herald. Weird. Hans gets a kill. So, yeah, that's plate gold then. Just funneled into the Aphelios. That makes a lot of sense. It's artificial gold in some regards because kill gold is more superficial. Then Elk, yeah, they got the tier 3 top as well. Okay, we need to look here at this fight because this looks like the turning point for G2. 21 minutes in, they shut down Elk. So we'll go have a look at that because there'll probably be a misplay, all things considered, because this game looks very dominant from JDG, because they're what, 29k to 20. They're at a 5k gold lead and they throw this. Yeah, it is 24 minutes, right? 21 minutes. Okay, we'll just watch from here. See how any fight kicks off. So, there is a combo. Okay, so BLG are aggressing. They use Shirelles. Nature's Grasp is used. TP is used from G2. Caps is here. They're all peeling onto Caps. Getting his flash. Bin's coming in on the side. Okay. Gravitum onto just Broken Blade. Misses. Okay, so Elk is now without his ult. So there's no threat of a Infernum ult just killing all G2. So this kind of means G2 can kind of clump up a bit more. And that's helpful for general. I think this is what... I'm intrigued because Elk just decides to go aggressive, it seems. I mean, that is the Elk style. Misses you, steps forward, Gale Force into a Hurricane. It's just over-aggression, it seems. He gets shut down from it because Cassante Q3s him. Past him, probably going to all out. Wait. Broken Blade, you mad lad. He waited. He got the cleanse out. He got the wild growth out. And now he's gonna... There you go. The pullback with the all out. Just the damage is so clean. Jinx Rocket comes through. Broken Blade just outplays Elk. That's a huge outplay in some regards. Like, it's a misplay. Don't get me wrong. BLG should not have been stepping that far forward in regards to how they're positioned. Because look at how spread out they are. It's not team fight, like, ideals. Your ADC is in frontlining against a Cassante, a Jinx, and a Janna. That's so dumb. Now, Broken Blade's healing up. He's On's dead at this point. He can flash. Broken Blade probably can chase him with the E. Or, yeah, whatever dashes Cassante has, he can chase. Top side of the fight is now becoming more interesting because Yike is in a 1v2 against the other carries of BLG. And Caps is trying to support him. He throws... I presume he just threw the Scour of the Week at Yigao, trying to get the execute off. Now in status, Scatter of the Week comes through. Unleash Power was before it. Yeah, it's just a clean turnaround of a misplay from BLG. Now G2 get Baron, and they snowball the game from there. And I don't know how they get Soul. Like, yeah, that is interesting, but that is even more interesting where every G2 member just goes on the uptrend. Big fight. Big fight. You gotta say Broken Blade outplayed it and did well, and kind of a big reason G2 won that fight. Lastly, we've got 2 more games. G2 versus BLG Game 3. G2's draft, I mean, same bands. They're on blue side still. Clearly some favorability to red. These are just a return of Game 1 bands, aren't they? Except Maokai is in the ban pit. So that leaves open the Annie, which G2 snap up. Get caps on it. Yeah. Yike clearly looks to have been ballooned early on G2 side. Yeah. Probably went having a party in top playing with Broken Blade. I mean, this G2 draft... Okay, that's a bit surprising. But it doesn't scream, oh my god, we're going to lose this game. It screams, hey, we're G2. We're going to play a carry in the jungle for Yike. Broken Blade's on a bruiser. Caps is doing Caps things. Hans and Mickey are on a poke-heavy, harassing lane that can just go aggressive. It's a G2 style draft versus a very BLG draft heavy. A very BLG draft. You got Bin on a carry, Shun on engage, Yigao on Izari, Elk on an aggressive ADC with a support that can just buff up Elk. It's a very BLG-esque draft. And, I mean, we don't need to talk about bans. I mean, the Cassante ban, clearly paying respects to what Broken Blade just did in last game. It makes shutting down Elk really hard. So this is an interesting gold graft, and there's 2 fights we can essentially watch here. We'll look at the 24 and 36 if that's important. Let's see if there is a 24. They just get Baron because they pick off Yigao. Okay. Then it just gets into a snowball from 30 minutes. Because Caps dies. Shun catches Hans Summer as well. It's a lot of gold getting given back to BLG. Let's look at the 26 minute, I believe I said. I said 36. Let's look at the 36 minute fight of Game 3. I'm really thinking how the series turns out is one that could have definitely gone either way, and I'm sad I haven't watched it. So we'll skip ahead. 35 minutes on the clock. Okay, G2 are TPing in to either have the flank. It's Caps. Charm lands into Everfrost. Oh. So it looks like they just catch Hansama. They use the CC chain Wukong has to keep him busy. Elk on the other side is being enchanted up by Lulu, keeping him alive. similar job from Mickey in this side. But Jun just is doing a lot because he's got previous shutdowns in the game onto Hans and Yike, I believe he gets a shutdown onto. But yeah, that's a huge thing. And what that tells you is G2 just are gonna lose because their EC's dead. The health bar's 4, BLG minus obviously Elk are very, very good. And so when the re-engage come through, it's very easy because Elk is now able to free fire with Green Gun from range. The one thing he needs when he's low is a lot of range, and the Green Gun is perfect for that. So he's just going to continue to fire in, and it looks like Jun and Elk are just going to clean up the fight. Yeah. Triple kill for the Wukong. Ari kills the last member, and it's game from there. Just one catch onto Hansama leads to death for G2. And considering it's an Aphelios that's doing this really begs some questions as to priority picks from teams, because Aphelios is always a first pick for red side. So with how these bans are, why don't G2 drop the cannon ban for an Aphelios and then or drop Nidalee, lock the Aphelios in? I think dropping the cannon makes the most sense, but like ban the Aphelios or pick it first for yourselves. You then put BLG in a weird situation. Side note, Xayah is still an option because you could essentially run cleanse on her, go into the Featherstorm. But no, G2 match Elk's aggression with more aggression. Sometimes I think that may be a misplay. Regardless, game 4, the last game in the series. Yeah, that looks dominant from 16 minutes on. And Harold, Cloud, there's a Cloud Drake fight. Basically. Yeah. We didn't scroll down too hard on these, but these graphs tell you something about where the gold goes. And, yeah. That's all from 15 minutes on. He's just in a lead. We'll not look at the fight because, oh, that explains it a lot more. Oh, jeez. This dude's just getting gold. Also, what were the bans for this game? Lulu. That's interesting. Weird. Actually, no, that's normal. Never mind. I was thinking that was not Nami. But, like, this is an interesting ban to find from P2. Because they dropped the Nidalee ban. Surprisingly, BLG don't take it. They ban a Lulu instead. Why don't they drop the cannon ban as well for something like that? It's weird how G2 have drafted through this series in some regards. Like, these stable bans don't really do much. That's my humble opinion. The Vi, I understand. This is one of them interesting bans, per se. But it clearly, you ban out the Lulu, but he goes to his Lucian Nami. He drops the Aphelios because the one enchanter that worked well with Aphelios for him is no longer there, so he goes to another combo of enchanters and supports. Clearly, there's a drafting issue. And I mean, I think it's important to note that Lucian Nami just is better for Elk, I think. He performs better on that like rotational bot lane, because he hasn't got to rely on guns and gun timings as much. He just relies more on positioning and just getting the target, because you can play a lot more aggressive with Lucian Nami than you can with Aphelios and Lulu, in my opinion. But yeah, that's going to be the series looked at from a more analytical point than what we usually do. We weren't diving headfirst into games per se and looking at each individual fight. We were more so focusing on how the West essentially aren't as good. And this is something that I think I've noticed a lot during the playoffs, doing the streams, is that teams in the West really do struggle with draft. And it's unfortunate, really, because it's not just down to coaching, but it's also down to the teams that are built. I'm now looking at the LCS as you think about that region as a whole. They're currently having a bit of a issue with their developmental system. And I'll be honest, I was reading tweets before doing this recording by the LCS Players Association, which is basically just... it feels like a pointless avenue in some regards, because players they don't take much action, shall we say. They take actions and they tweet about things, but their stance to public is they just make tweets about it. There's no like actions in regards to like striking or doing. Essentially, if long story short, Riot put a thing out like on Friday that basically said LCS teams are not do not have to commit anymore to having a Challenger League team or a developmental roster. Immediately after that, teams like TSM, who are going through financial issues, dropped their developmental roster, their Challenger squad. There's teams like Immortals who also drop their developmental squads. Now, I'm not gonna talk shit on rosters and organizations, but like, the developmental scene isn't there for certain Western sides, whereas here in Europe, I think genuinely some of the coaches in the LEC would benefit from like coaching in a regional league. I think seeing how teams draft down in lower tiers would be beneficial. Like, even to the coaching staff or the analysts, having coaching experience down in lower regions, you get to see the drafts and see how matchups play out between certain champions and certain playstyles, because certain champions you can play in certain ways. I think if you look at how Elk plays, it's stupidly aggressive and he gets backup for it. He's not doing it. He's doing it with skill, shall we say. And that is something that teams really need to understand before they can kind of advance, you know. I'd genuinely like to see some ERL teams go up against LEC teams. Like, I genuinely think, and this is just Riot or the LEC, reward the European Masters winner. Give them a series, like a fun little series against the winners of the LEC. Just because you get to see the best regional team against the best European, like, LEC team. It's a sort of way to A, advance the region, B, advance playstyles, and C, give more light and development to the region. And I think the West, and I'm already ruling out C9 here. I've done it all video, but like, essentially the West need to hit the drawing boards, because if they want to contest these Eastern sides, their strategies need to evolve. And obviously, I've said before, I'm not a fan of how of the 3 splits. I prefer the 2 splits in terms of everything. But you could, in theory, have winter and spring combined into 1 split and do best of 3s all the way through to MSI. And yeah, in theory, you'd only get... Actually, no, that's a lie. You do best of 3s through to the end of, well, to MSI. You get multiple games against the same team on the same patch. You then, in theory, have a break week and then go into the second rotation, because I'm pretty sure with how quick the split would go, you could definitely do a double round robin best of 3s. That's just my opinion. Yeah, probably teams will get exhausted and tired out, but you'd also be getting teams fully practiced. Now, in my opinion, I think teams for like Worlds and MSI should play their playoffs on them patches. Like, MSI patch should be what every region plays playoffs on. Same with Worlds, because A, it means that everyone can kind of come in at an even footing. B, it gives a lot more, like, ability to learn how teams play. And if you see a team perform really well on this patch with a certain champion, you ban it out, chances are they'll have been able to understand, okay, well, teams are going to ban that now because we're good on it on this patch. They're going to adapt new strategies. We'll probably see a wider champion pool, and don't get me wrong, this entire tournament has had a wide champion pool in terms of what is played. If we actually look at it, teams... Come on. I didn't want to click teams, I want to click tournaments. basically, gimme more games. Gimme same patch, and just West development needs improving. Simple. Anyway, that's gonna be it. Yeah, there you go. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed it, leave a like down below. Subscribe if you're new, if you want to. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, actually live. I apologize for not being live. Peace out.